And we are live here at Mormon Book Reviews. I'm host Stephen Peinecker. I haven't done a live stream for a couple weeks, and I realized that next weekend is Memorial Day weekend. And so I know a lot of people will be traveling. So I thought I should probably do a live stream this Friday because I probably won't do one next Friday. But I just wanted to kind of give updates on a few things and preview a few things that are happening here on the channel. By the way, this is also the opportunity for people to do a live chat with me. And so let me know if you, by the way, if you're here in the live chat, if you could just make sure that the sound sounds good. I always like to do a sound check. Typically, if it's a bad sound, I usually get a message. But I just wanted to kind of update people on a few things that have been happening. And I usually give it a minute or two before I start getting into stuff because people don't get their notifications right away. Rending the Veil says sound is good. Thank you, Rending the Veil. Appreciate you for chiming in. Also, this is the time if you want to make a financial contribution, throw in a buck or two, 5, 10, 20 bucks, whatever, you get a shout out from me and a vociferous thank you. This would be the time to do it as well. And also don't forget to give the like button up, press the like button on this so that this video gets in front of more people. Interestingly enough, this is a live stream and I try to do it every other Friday, sometimes every Friday. And I want to kind of be consistent. So I'm going to try to do this, be more consistent on Fridays, but also sometimes by the end of the week I'm just exhausted, and sometimes it can be this can be a very stressful place to be in, as you might imagine, and you just you feel like you're under siege sometimes, and so you just got to kind of, sometimes I just got to give myself a mental health break, right, and just like say, hey Steve, no, I'm not going to go live tonight because I need to focus on things. Ted says hello, Steve. Hello, Teds. Just to tell you, everybody, in case you haven't heard it, Mom went in to see her surgeon at his practice this Wednesday, and he checked her out and they got the biopsy returns, and Mom is cancer free. So the cancer did not spread outside of the tumor that they removed, the baseball sized tumor. He said you can resume to normal activities, including driving, eating normal food, and everything. So my mom actually went to Costco and Aldi today and to do some shopping. And that's the first time she's been out for a couple weeks, and she was able to do it. She was a little tired afterwards, but she was able to do it, and she even made dinner tonight. So we just want to thank everybody for their kind words and their love and their prayers. Yes, Ted's good news that she's cancer free. Amen to that. Yes, it is great news, Ted. So okay, I titled this "Gold Plates: Michelle Brady Stone and the God Makers," and actually. IDK 4003 says, hello, Steve. Great news on your mom. Yes, we're very blessed. We're very blessed here. I just want to tell, last week I did the interview with Karen Hyatt, Michelle Brady Stone's producer, and I thought it was a good conversation. Got a lot of positive feedback from it. I've been told that Michelle was very pleased with it as well. Now, I'm not in this business to please people, but I also want people to know that they're going to be treated fairly on this platform. And so if people feel that Michelle was treated fairly and her producer was, I think that's a good thing. I think we can all agree with that, right? Treating people fairly and kindly, and just respecting them for where they're at and that they're fellow image bearers. And so that was a good conversation. I've gotten a little bit of feedback from people asking me if Michelle's been excommunicated or what the latest is. I talked to a close associate of hers the other day. There's nothing new on that front. I know that, Michelle's been going through a lot and she's been under a lot of pressure. And I know, of course, people did point out that for a while there, Michelle didn't actually remove all her videos from her YouTube channel because they were still in the podcast part. But then earlier this week, they were removed. So she has removed all her videos from her YouTube channel. I believe she removed it on Monday. So was the agreement, I guess, that she did to remove these things. Again, these are very sensitive topics, so I don't want to misspeak on them. But I don't know what's next for Michelle. I've had some of her, I've been in touch with some people who are also her detractors, and they've spoken with me as well. So, again, I like to talk to everybody and get their perspective. And they actually, even one of Michelle's biggest critics has told me that he's been praying for her and put her name on the prayer roll. So I'll just say that, just because people disagree with Michelle doesn't mean that they hate her. Ted, she went on Mormonish lately. She didn't really talk about these pressures, did she? I don't know. I didn't catch that episode, so I didn't know that she was on Mormonish. So, all right. So I think Michelle, we'll see. Let's just keep her in our prayers. I think it's really important that we realize that people are human beings. I even tell people, I'm a human being too. And when you get behind that keyboard and you start attacking me, you're attacking a human being. And it's so funny because so often when these haters attack me, I'll just say, let's do the Zoom call challenge. And they're like, what's that? Well, why don't we be men face to face and do a Zoom call? And we can hash things out. And I always felt like if they didn't take me up on their offer, they're cowards. The only person that in all these years that's taken me up on the Zoom call challenge was Chino Blanco, one of the founders of the ex-Mormon Reddit. And I went on a Zoom call. Turned out to be a very pleasant man, pleasant experience. And last year I had him on shortly before Sunstone to talk about an oral history of the early days of the ex-Mormon Reddit, which I think is an important conversation to have and an important documentation of history in this space. Remember, folks, I'm not taking sides here, which means I'm going to talk to everybody, even people you don't like. And sometimes people will unsubscribe from my channel and goes, why are you talking to that person? I was like, because they're part of the restoration, or because they represent millions of the views of millions of people in the restoration, whether you like it or not. That's the reality. And so I get flack for having faithful Latter-day Saints on and ex Latter-day Saints. And it's like, get it. I'm friends with, I try to be friends with everybody, which of course means you're also going to be making enemies with people as well. So so you understand that people that have been attacking me throughout the years, I've always extended the olive branch to these people. And even the episode that I posted yesterday from Kai Van Leuven's channel, Jesus for Mormons, this was still an attempt to facilitate dialogue with some of my critics in the Christian apologetics space. And we'll see if maybe eventually we'll be able to I want to be friends with them. I actually want to, in some ways, even help them and work with them on some level, just like I would like to do the same with Scott Gordon over at Fair Mormon. I think it's important that we have positive dialogue and good scholarship and good facts, and if we can just agree on the basic facts, and then we can bring our opinions to it, that's fair. But I think as long as we're distorting things or not being totally factually accurate or correct on these things, it leads to bad apologetics and bad dialogue. Okay, Ted says, I think she talked about personal history. Okay, Starbase Collab chimes in. He gives the Switzerland sign. Always appreciate it when you do that, Starbase Collab, and I know who you are. And it's good to see you in the chat tonight as well. Okay, so talking about, now gold plates. Of course, gold plates is something that's really fascinating to me. The idea of records written on gold plates was going to resonate with most people in this audience, whether positively or negatively. And again, just real quick, more people are hopping on. Rending the Veil writes, have you reviewed Woman and Authority by Maxine Hanks? No, I have not. Now, I should reach out to Maxine. Somebody suggested I should have her on soon. Maxine and I are friends and have spent time together, and I'd like to get her on there. IDK4003 says, by the way, speaking of Kai's video, I hope everyone read their epistle to Hebrews and discovered the truth and beauty of temple worship. Yeah, okay. So I want to talk about gold plates because last year I had Dan McClellan come on, because last year there was this discovery that was hailed on originally a messianic program called A Rude Awakening, which is popular in evangelical circles. My mom used to watch A Rude Awakening every Friday night or Saturday night when it was on, and she really enjoyed the program. And these people came on claiming that they found these gold plates in Saudi Arabia with inscriptions on them that date to biblical times or something like that. What was the claim? And so I was asked so it went on the Paul Brothers program, the Stick of Joseph carried it, Ward Radio carried it, and others carried it. And this is all, for about a week there was all the rage. And then I had Dan McClellan come on that Friday. I contacted him on a Thursday. On Friday, I'm taking my interview with Dan. And essentially that ended the conversation. He would later, a few days, even John DeLynn texted me, said that was a good get for that story, Steve. And I said, oh, thanks, John. And he then a few days later had Dan on the program to also debunk these plates as well. But I think by the time Dan had been on my program, it kind of, the air came out of the sails on that thing. And it pretty much ended the conversation in faithful circles. Well, then I get contacted by an associate of Dr. Miles Jones. and who is comes from a Protestant background, but is now what you could call a messianic follower of Yeshua. He believes that the original Gospels and New Testament were written in Hebrew, which is kind of a counter to the dominant scholastic narrative. So he comes with some unconventional views. His first one of his books in the series is Sons of Zion versus Sons of Greece. And it's kind of an alternative history. It's part of a series, Messianic Church Arising. And this one, he says the pirates of the Caribbean were actually Messianics, followers of Yeshua, and that they've been around for a long time, an unbroken chain of this underground church that existed. I don't know what to think of the story, but I find it interesting. And I think it's something that would resonate with people in the Restoration as well. Well, they contacted me because they were on Dr. Nehemiah Gordon's program. And it turns out that Jonathan Felt, who's the chief translator for Dr. Miles Jones, is actually has a Mormon background. And so Nehemiah's like, you believe in the Book of Mormon? And it's like, oh, yeah. He says, you need to go on Steve Peineker's program. So that's how he got on there. And okay, let's see. Pirate Ship Church sounds awesome. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Render in the Veils. That would be an awesome interview. But trying to get my hands on the copy. That's the Maxine Hanks person. Shabbat Shalom, my brother, says Charlie Ellard, who just reached out to me this afternoon. Of course, Charles has been somebody that's been in touch with me in the past, sends me a lot of messages and stuff. Ted says Underground Church, funny. Starbass Cola, that would even be better if they built a temple on a ship. All right, good stuff, guys. Love it. And isn't there in a sci-fi show where there's a Mormon ship on, what's the name of it? And I'm just wondering, did they have a temple on that ship? What was the name of that program? It's a sci-fi program. Help me if you can help me that. Oh, Jack, and it says IDK 4003 says Jack Sparrow was a Messianic Jew. Charles says, love you, brother. Blessings, my friend. But no, it wasn't Battlestar Galactica. No, it wasn't Battlestar Galactica. I know about Battlestar Galactica. There was another sci-fi series that featured. It takes place in our solar system, and it has a ship of Mormons that they're going to. I think they're going to find Kolob, is what they were doing. So if somebody could think of it, oh my gosh, it's going to kill me. Darn it! You guys know what I'm talking about. It's not Battlestar Galactica. It's a show that came out in the last 10 years or so. The Expanse. Thank you so much. Panrek says The Expanse. Walter Reed says the Expanse. Yes, The Expanse. So for those of you who've watched the series, The Expanse, they had the Mormons. I don't know if they're referred to as Mormons in the show. They had a ship. Did they have a temple on that ship? That's what I'd like to know. So if anybody's watched The Expanse, let me know. See what happens? You start getting me off on these tangents. So it's called an Expanse. It's called the Nauvoo. It's a generational colony ship. So most likely, whether they discuss it or not, if it's a generational colony ship, then they would definitely have at least maybe an endowment room, right? Some kind of a tabernacle, at least. I don't know. That's interesting. So I had them on to my program this past Tuesday, and people have, maybe I got a little pushback, but generally speaking, it was positive. And I just felt like, okay, we have this individual who has his organization / ministry based in Texas, who's not a Latter-day Saint, who is making claims about the Bible, and also making claims essentially that because if the New Testament was actually written originally in Hebrew, and that within the Greek, because things with the Greek translations happened, that many plain and precious things were removed from the original New Testament. Does that ring a bell? So here you have somebody who's making that claim, who's not even a member of your church. When he's also claiming to have come across these metal plates with engravings on them from this from the Zadok priesthood class. And that's interesting. Scriptures written on plates in the Middle East. I mean, okay, that shit. So I'm not going and saying like everything they're saying is true, or that or most of what they're saying is true. I'm saying that it's interesting that you have people that have kind of landed on this idea of scriptures being corrupted, plain and precious things being removed, and that they're restoring them. So I'm going to have them come back on, because I also talked to an associate of theirs who was this BYU professor for 20 years, who was on the original Zoom call with them, who told me, he says they found at least 18 plain and precious things that have been removed from the New Testament. Well, and then they came on my show and they said, actually, Steve, it's more than 18. So, okay, let's find out what those plain and precious things were based on their translation theory of the Bible. And then let the audience decide what they think about it. I just think that's interesting stuff. Okay, we don't have autographs, so it's like this guy. They have them in Hebrew scriptures. Ted says, wow, The Expanse is a new one for me. I'll have to look for it. Starboss Colab says, we don't have the autographs, so it's a live theory. Charles Ellard says, Nehemiah Gordon worked on the translation for Hebrew Matthew. They found the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of John in Hebrew. David Butler made a good point back when all this came out. The problem isn't the story of gold plates containing scripture. The problem was the angel. Yeah. And there's always, of course, when you bring supernatural into the natural, the naturalists are going to immediately balk to this idea. So we got a lot of interesting people here in the chat. If you would like to make any questions or comments, now is the time to interact with me. For those of you who'd like to make a little donation in the chat and get it in the super chat, that'd be great. And I'll give you a shout out. I'm going to transition over now to this this whole God makers thing. So earlier today, I posted on my personal Facebook page, which, by the way, if you want to friend me on Facebook, if you don't, we don't have any mutual friends, maybe just message me and say, hey, I'm a viewer of your program. I know we don't have mutual friends, but I want to be on your Facebook page, and it's there. So I put on Facebook alert today, and I talked to Kyle Bashirs a couple weeks ago about this, is that, I've been always wanted to do something about the God Makers cartoon. Now, I actually did a book. One of my early book reviews was about the God Makers book, but I wanted to hone in on the banned Mormon cartoon and just put together a panel discussion about it and give different perspectives. Kyle, actually, that caused Kyle to actually write a paper for a Substack thing, which will be going live this Monday. I've seen the preview copy of it, but he makes it's just really, really interesting about how much the God Maker still resonates in the evangelical world, and how basically the evangelical world, essentially what happened, it was huge. It was like the first thing they ever heard about Mormonism was this God Makers film that was being shown in different churches, and also shown on WCFC Channel 38 in Chicago as I was a child. That was my first introduction to the doctrines of Mormonism. I had already been aware of the Book of Mormon, but I didn't know anything about the doctrines. But they were running that God Makers cartoon on a loop during the week. And so this is way pre-internet. And so I saw the God Makers, and it was kind of scandalized, and it was kind of scary and interesting. And so Kyle actually wrote a really good article about the God Makers movie and cartoon and the impact that it's had on the evangelicals' views. So many parents of children have seen the parents saw the videos. And so whatever Mormonism that they're telling their children is going to probably be through the prism of the God Makers movie. And it still retains some potency even into this period of time. And it's got millions and millions of views on YouTube. And I'm sure that many of those viewers are either Latter-day Saints who want a good laugh, or evangelicals who are investigating Mormonism. And it's always, and so I think it's part of the story. It still has staying power. I don't know if the movie itself, I don't think has too much staying power, but the cartoon certainly is very powerful propaganda. And so I want to put together a panel discussion sometime this week or next week. I put it out there. I'd like to get some good people on there. And so I'm not going to rush this panel discussion. I want a really good balance of people. I even want people on there that well, I've had people say that they actually think, as members of the Restoration, say that overall it's pretty accurately describes, the cartoon does describe Mormon theology pretty accurately, especially during that time. So that voice is going to be on my program. We're going to talk about it from an evangelical prism. I'd like to talk about it through maybe an ex-Mormon prism, and get different perspectives on this very, very powerful cartoon that still has a lot of sway to this day. And a lot of Christians all their knowledge of Mormonism is often that cartoon, and that's all they got. And maybe they've watched the South Park cartoon. Talk about the importance of cartoons and how they can be used for propaganda. Jack Chick, who started the Chick Tracts in the early 60s, saw, which are these Christian comics, like little tracks like this, and he saw that the Chinese communists were doing these to indoctrinate children. And he thought, oh, we could do the same thing for Christianity. And so we know that imagery and cartoons and things like that can be very powerful. Heck, it was those Arnold Freiberg paintings as an 8-year-old boy. When I first saw them, I became entranced by them. And Richard Bushman, when I had him on the last time my program, said, yeah, those were originally commissioned not for the Book of Mormon. They were originally commissioned for youth. So he said, I can see that it's definitely attracted one youth person, and that would be me. And I thought, yeah, that's a good point. So it's very, well, Ether's Elephant says, accurate. Who are these Latter-day Saints? Aha. Well, Ether, we're going to have him on. So he's an interesting dude. Actually, he is a Mormon fundamentalist. So I think it'd be interesting to get a Mormon fundamentalist perspective on the Godmakers cartoon. So Kurt Weber says, glad your mom's doing great. She's doing great. And so, yeah, I know that the Godmakers cartoon is controversial, but I think it's really important that it is part of this history of the restoration. Now, about 10 years ago, I'd say it's probably been about 10 years ago or so, John DeLynn had Ed Decker on, who the creator of the Godmakers books and series and stuff like that. And that was a fascinating interview as well. And then John actually played that cartoon on Mormon Stories. Well, we're going to do that here. We are going to play it and offer commentary. So obviously we'll fit within fair use and have a panel discussion on it. So I'm excited about it. All right. So we're 20 minutes in, got a lot of people in the chat here. Quite a few people are watching. Most people watch this after I go live. Just try to remember to have your notifications turned on, because I want people to be able to participate live. Anybody in the chat, anybody that's watching right now, do you have any questions, suggestions? I'll keep it open because I monitor the chat here. And I do want to thank everybody for their participation, and sometimes some great comments and stuff are, Charles says, your wife says hello. He'll say hello to the wife. Even that, if you want me to say hi to your significant other, I'll say hi to him, whatever. Also, I did want to share, and I haven't posted my photograph yet, but I shared this on another live stream. Robert Messick's daughter, Kimberly, last time I was in Mesa, she hand painted this cover of the Book of Mormon. Just a really cool gift that I got. And they did get they got it. I sent the gift and in return to their daughter, and she really appreciated it. And so that was really cool. That's really what I love doing. A couple other things. I don't know yet if I'm going to get out to Mormon History Association in June. Fingers crossed. Sunstone in July, early August, maybe. I got to find out if they're going to be doing the kickball tournament, because part of the reason I can go is that I count as a volunteer, and then I don't have to pay for the conference fee to go to Sunstone. So that saves me some money. And it's, Lindsay Anson Park says I have an open invitation to be the umpire every year between Team Higher Law and Team Outer Darkness, which is when the polygamists and the ex-Mormons have a kickball tournament, and I am the umpire. If I can make it, if they're doing it, I hope, let's keep Moroni Lopez Jessup in our prayers, because he's been having some health issues. He usually organizes it. So we'll see what happens there. Then you have John Whitmer in September, which is going to be in Independence this year. I think it's going to be at the Truman Library. Might try to get out to that. The Community of Christ later this month is going to be having their world conference, and this will be historical because it will be the first time they will have a female prophet, seer, and revelator in the Community of Christ. So that's kind of something I would like to maybe get out to as well. But I just, I don't have a huge amount of funds. This is a shoestring budget we operate on, if I even want to call it a budget. This is really done as a labor of love. Marquita Armstrong says, I don't agree with Michelle, but I admire her style and courage. The church is fearful of her following. Yeah, I think that there's something to that. I think that the Michelle has made it all the way to the ward level here in Florida. Just saying. So I know that she does have a lot of influence. Now I kind of have too, just so you know. People knew who I was before I went there too, the local ward. But Michelle's has a lot of influence, and especially with Latter-day Saint women. And I think the church needs to be very careful how they handle this, because there's a lot of women that are watching very, very closely to see how Michelle's going to be treated. That's all I'll say about that. But there are a lot of women that are watching very closely. And so we'll have to, I'll be watching it very closely as well. Okay, well, hey, we got a lot of good people here in the chat. Got quite a few people. Last minute thing. I tried to do these a little bit ahead of schedule, and I sometimes just do it at the last minute, like tonight. Marquita says, "Hope you're doing fine, Steve. Doing fine. Mom's doing good. I've been having issues just with just a lot of negativity and toxicity out there, kind of brewing." And sometimes it does wear you down, and sometimes I had to take some breaks. That's partly why I didn't do live streams the last couple of weeks. It just was by the end of the week, I'm just so tired and worn out. I don't feel like I can handle it. But I'm feeling better this week, and I'm really pleased with just the great conversations and guests that we've been having on. I'm looking forward. Yes, Starbucks-based Colab says, seeing evangelicals try and gatekeep you bugs me. And yeah, I know, drives me nuts too. But I'm hopeful. We'll see what happens. Starbase Colab says, you are a Trinitarian. Yes. I'm a confessional Nicene Christian. And Cobalt Love says, I thought that was the hard line. In some ways it is, but I don't know. I'm not. I don't want to waste my time arguing with my haters. I got into this conversation earlier this week with somebody. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? And I'm just wasting my time. It's like they kept on. These people, I don't know. They're just weird, and I think there's some mental health issues going on in some of this as well. So. And I'm speaking as somebody who's suffered lifelong depression. So I'm not going to, I'm not degrading somebody by saying there's mental health issues. If anything, you can sometimes identify it and just say, hey, go get some help, go talk to somebody. When I see some of the stuff these people type online, I'm like, man, I hope they get help. Okay. And I did want to comment too on Chief Mitiga. So people have been sending me some videos on Chief Mitiga, and he's been making some claims. I just want to, and I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, but I want to make it very, very clear. Chief Mitiga does not have any position in the Church of Jesus Christ. He came on my program shortly after he was baptized this past February. He is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ, also known as the Bickertonites. Okay. But the views that he expressed on his channel are not necessarily those of the church. I think it's very important for people to understand this. I love that church very much. And Chief Mitiga has been making some claims that these are not teachings that are taught by the church. Okay. And so I want you to be able to not conflate Chief Mitiga with the church. Now, this is not a bash on him. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Okay. But I just want to make it very clear that, he's a member of the church, but he's not in church leadership. He's not in any ordained role, and he's not a spokesman for the church. He speaks for himself. Okay. And he, and for his people. Okay, says he's got a following, and he speaks for his people. So he speaks for himself and his people, but he doesn't necessarily speak for the Church of Jesus Christ. Just wanted to get that out there. Nobody asked me to do it. I just wanted to let people know. People have sent me videos with some concerns or wanted my observations on them, and so of course I do my due diligence, if you might, as you might imagine. So okay, well, I am going to wrap this baby up. We're about 30 minutes in, and I think this was a very productive conversation tonight. I want to thank everybody's great feedback tonight, and I really do appreciate it. Most people will be watching this over the weekend, so I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And if I don't live stream next weekend, I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. And like I said, I put it out there on Facebook. So if you are friends with me on Facebook and are interested in participating in this panel discussion about the God Makers cartoon, reach out to me. We're in the process of laying out a couple days and times that will work. And I want to be able to find the best day and time that will maximize the panel, and also have just some really good guests as well. I might even do it the week after next. I'm not rushing this. So that's where we're at. All right, folks. Have yourself a great weekend. Really appreciate and love all the wonderful things, the people, just the words of encouragement and prayers. It's been, Mom and I have felt them. It's greatly appreciated. And remember this, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.